Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm George Eastman, the sales manager here at Mondas. I'm joined here with Mike, our SOC lead, and today we're going to be running through a risk assessment that Mike and the team delivers for customers. But I guess to start with, Mike, do you want to give us some background on what you do here at Mondas before we get started?
Yeah, sure. So, hi guys, I'm Mike. I'm the SOC team lead at Mondas. So, I run the Security Operations Center here, which is a 24/7 service looking after our clients' digital environments. We look after not just your network, we look after your endpoints, vulnerabilities, all sorts of things when it comes to your digital environment. It's my job at the beginning of our engagement really to find out what the business needs are, what the cyber security needs are, and just talk to any of the IT team, stakeholders, and see where we can find gaps in the security.
Amazing. And today we're obviously going to be looking at how the process of doing a risk audit, for which is often a good way, I think, to get to the bottom of how we can best support clients and understand the value that we can bring to them in order for them to get more secure. So from your side, Mike, what do you think is important from the outset?
So from my side, it's important that we get a good understanding of the nuances of the business. So collaboration is really important. It just means that we can uncover risks that automated tools might miss. Discussing all aspects really of data and security means we can dig into the right areas of the business, things that the business deems critical or deems important. And this is very much a team effort between the two of us at that point.
Yeah, fantastic. And the kind of effort doesn't just stretch across your team, I imagine, Mike, but also into customers as well, to be able to get into the detail that you guys are going to need to you know provide actionable steps and remediation findings from the efforts that you're doing. Great. Okay. And so after that initial chat, what's the next step in the process, Mike?
So next step, so once our tools are deployed and we've gathered some intelligence and overlaid any insight gathered from the client, we condense that into something like a digestible audit report that we'll go through today.
Fantastic. And so this is the end deliverable, or is that just a list of issues that you'll provide?
No, it's definitely not just a list of issues. It can become that, but the idea really is that we put some value into prioritizing these issues for you, making it a bit easier to digest for the clients. For example, a high to low risk prioritization is what we like to use. So the client can find out quickly and easily which issues to tackle first. So whether it's finding things like a redundant account, weak credentials, MFA gaps, anything we can do to really improve the security posture of the business quickly.
Absolutely. And I think that's a key thing, certainly from conversations that I have. And, even if you look back to things like vulnerabilities, like you alluded to, it can just come across like a list. And, I guess you, being, a specialist in the area, being able to highlight, have your intelligence and really tailor what's a high risk based upon the organization's, IT infrastructure is so valuable. Rather than, like you say, which sometimes often, especially when I look at the results of a Nessus scan, can just feel like a big long list of nasties, which nobody wants or looks forward to. Being able to pinpoint actionable steps that you can prioritize is going to be key information from customer side. Brilliant. And I guess what's important that it's all pulled together quite quickly. Cybersecurity is a fast evolving industry sector. What's a risk today or isn't a risk today might be a risk tomorrow, especially when we're looking at the likes of serious threats.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were saying, it's rapid when it comes to this industry, how quickly things can change. So once we've got all the necessary access, we can normally pull this kind of report together in a few days, just to get the ball rolling as quickly as possible. Time is of the essence here, as you were saying. Every minute is a gap present. Every minute a gap is present, there's a risk, and the whole point of the report really is to get those risks down as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess let's jump in and have a look at the report, the output of what you might provide to a client. I think we can see it on the screen here. This is a risk assessment itself. But should we delve into this report?
Yeah, absolutely. So with this report, I can't really share real world data here, but I can give you an idea of what it would look like and what an audit report would look like after our initial chats. So In this case, I've modified it or redacted it slightly, and our immediate actions are focused on accounts flagged with critical security gaps. So specifically, in this case, some compromised passwords and stale accounts.
Fantastic. We'll obviously look into the findings that you'll pick out for one of these reports. I see that you've got an
Sure.
executive summary here from the outset. What's the value of including that?
Yeah, so the point of the executive summary really is to bring key points to the front of the report, things that we want you to take away that we think would improve or benefit the business in maybe a way that isn't so technical, quite high level kind of information here at the beginning. The idea of the executive summary really is, like we're saying, to pull things that we want you guys or we want clients to pull away from the session and look into first, or maybe even just give a little bit of an overview of your digital environment.
Yeah. And I guess for people that are non-technical, kind of like myself, it gives us a real chance to be able to pinpoint the key takeaways from the report as well. That's what's going to stick in the mind. Brilliant. Okay, so let's delve in firstly into the identity risk assessment that you guys ran here. I can see a lot of numbers. It's all based around privileged accounts, total accounts. There's a little bit section on endpoint security. But what I can sort of see here, is some details around passwords that never expire, compromised passwords, duplicated passwords. I can see that you've tried to look for GPO exposed passwords. How do you identify compromised passwords, for example?
Great question. So what we do is we cross-reference credential hashes against global breach databases and dark web intelligence, and we can use this then to flag accounts that are exposed. Essentially, what we're looking for is accounts where maybe they've got access to quite a bit of the business, different areas of the business, which would include data which is quite valuable or quite personal. These are accounts which we really want to tackle first when it comes to compromised accounts. It might not even be the business' fault, but essentially we've seen in the past accounts who have more access in the business than they really should do. This might be just something because they've been given access for a certain project or for a certain business need that they had to carry out at one point and just never had the access revoked, or they should just never have had it to start with and it was just a misconfiguration. So being able to have a look at these accounts, discuss with the client whether they should have the level of access, and also talking about the fact that they are compromised, we can see credentials on the dark web. We can start then working towards securing these accounts, checking for sessions being revoked, or changing the passwords, looking at the account's history, looking through the events and seeing what's quote unquote normal for this user and what may be being carried out by a threat actor. So yeah, lots we can do with these compromised passwords.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing that you mentioned there, Mike, which I think is key. Often it's not the business's fault, but it's everybody's responsibility to know what's out there. And some of this stuff that you guys are doing and the team are doing gives them the intelligence to draw upon. And as we scroll through the report, I can see here you very very visually sort of highlighted high risk accounts and sort of what's considered with that. Obviously, we move through to medium risks as well. But for this client, we obviously flagged, I think if we go back, right, bear with me. For this client, one of the findings that you flagged here, top right, was a print Spooler service running in to them. It's something I never really would have considered an issue, and I'm in the industry. So could you tell me a bit about that and what it is?
Yeah, so for this client, we flagged the principal services running on sensitive accounts. So this is actually a known vector for remote code execution. So as you can see, that our recommendation is very simple for this one. Disable spooling where possible. I understand this isn't always the case, and we'll get on to later about how every solution is bespoke to each client, but for this client, it was very easy in that they didn't need it, so we were able to disable it where possible, and we just switched to direct printing to eliminate the risk.
Amazing. And I think, something that resonates earlier, when we were talking about a list of issues, if this was sent across, what I can see that you and the team here have done is provide those remediation steps with links to be able to, not just inform the client, but actually empower them with the knowledge and upskill so that they can handle these findings that you're sharing with them. Not just, like we say, a list of issues, it's actionable steps to remediate, which I think is the missing side of the coin that often gets overlooked. And what about, as we scroll through here, I can see some of the other devices that you've highlighted, privileged accounts, which you've obviously spoken to us about. Obviously the various different logins and vectors that you guys are looking at through the assessment. And you've of course highlighted level of impact. So any user reviewing this can see exactly what should be the first steps. But as we look at the SaaS risk assessment, what issues do you find beyond this?
Yeah, so like you were saying, we had a few good quick wins there, beginning with identity. But when it comes to SaaS, there's sometimes some unthought of attack vectors. So in this case, we looked at restricting users from adding unverified add-ins to software like Outlook, for example. These are often very much overlooked entry points for malicious software. And we also uncovered a significant gap in MFA. So we found 13 standard users and several admins operating without MFA. MFA again being multi-factor authentication. So this was flagged as a high priority. Without MFA, it's significantly easier for attackers to compromise these identities. We've also flagged a few issues in permissive applications, so attached password credentials, shared mailbox access, and also some temporary access pass issues as well. Having a look. Sorry, go on, George.
No, carry on. I was just scrolling through to find some of those priorities that you were talking to.
Sure. I guess a good one you could use is the medium priority. And we categorize like security checks, for example, as a medium priority. We noticed a high volume of non-interactive sign-ins associated with dormant accounts. So while these are not an immediate threat, as there's no way the accounts could be accessed as their credentials are still out there, it just goes to show that even if the account's dormant, threat actors are going to try their luck and see if it gets reactivated at some point. And so while at the moment, for example, in this client, it's not an immediate fire, it's a potential risk that needs closing off.
Yeah, and I think that's the main point here, right? In order to be able to highlight the things that will represent the biggest risks to an organization and give that path to remediation, and empowering these clients, is that right?
Yeah, so this example company was in a decent shape. But these targeted steps we highlighted could transform their posture from good to secure. The regular gap analysis that we do in the risk audits, it just helps clients stay ahead of the game really and see what gaps are still left in their environment.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I mean, it's a very quick overview of how a risk audit could look like and how it sort of increases overall visibility across the IT estate, and ultimately just giving more protection in those key areas. If I was a customer and looking to complete one of these, Mike, how would I go about starting a project like this?
For a project like this, so it all starts with the initial chat really. Once we've got all the overall aims and the concerns of the business, we can start to move quite quickly. Like I was saying before, here at Mondas, we're very much tailor bespoke SOC. So we're very much into having a look at what the business deems critical, what we find, what we maybe can bring up and say, hey, have you thought about this as being a potential issue? And working then together at that point to kind of build that level of security or that security culture within the business. So we're very much into having a look at what we can do for you and alongside you.
Fantastic. No, that's great, Mike, and really appreciate you taking the time to sort of contextualize a lot of the findings in the report, because often when these are received and I have conversations, it's very difficult to be able to draw upon what is key and what needs to be actioned and what is important information, especially when you're sharing it with people that aren't necessarily absorbed in the cybersecurity industry itself. So to be able to turn things around like this in a couple of days, react quite quickly, and tailor the approach to the specific business is a really, really key thing. Moving at pace in the cybersecurity industry, we've known for a long time is so important. But to be able to see it and visualize, what it actually looks like is really, really useful for me. So thank you for sharing that with me today.
No, of course, thank you very much, George.
Cheers.